Marie, and today we are continuing on with lesson 39 from A Course in Miracles. We are going through this as a daily lesson every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, and I am going to go ahead and start us off with just a quick recap of some of the lessons preceding this one because each one builds on the other. So with that, I am going to start with lesson 25. Lesson 25. I do not know what anything is for. Lesson 26. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. Lesson 27. Above all else, I want to see. Lesson 28. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Lesson 29. God is in everything I see. Lesson 30. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Lesson 31. I am not the victim of the world I see. Lesson 32, I have invented the world I see. Lesson 33, there is another way of looking at the world. Lesson 34, I could see peace instead of this. Lesson 35, my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. Lesson 36, my holiness envelops everything I see. Lesson 37, my holiness blesses the world. Lesson 38, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. Lesson 39, my holiness is my salvation. If guilt were hell, what is the opposite? Like the text for this workbook was written, the ideas used for the exercises are very simple, very clear, and totally unambiguous. We are not concerned with intellectual feats or nor logical toys. We are dealing only in the very obvious, which has been overlooked in the clouds of complexity in which you think. If guilt is hell, what is the opposite? This is not difficult, surely. The hesitation you may feel in answering is not due to the ambiguity of the question, but do you believe that guilt is hell? If you did, you would see at once how direct and simple the text is, and you would not need a workbook at all. Practice to gain what is already his. We have already said that your holiness is salvation of the world. What about your own salvation? You cannot give what you do not have. A savior must be saved. How else can he teach salvation? Today's exercises will apply to you, recognizing that your salvation is crucial to the salvation of the world. As you apply the exercises to your world, the whole world stands to benefit. Your holiness is the answer to every question that was ever asked, is being asked now, or will be asked in the future. Your holiness means the end of guilt, and therefore the end of hell. Your holiness is the salvation of the world and your own. How could you, to whom your holiness belongs, be excluded from it? God does not know unholiness. Can it be he does not know his own son? A full 5 minutes are urged for the 4 longer practice periods for today, and longer and more frequent practice periods are encouraged. If you want to exceed the minimum requirements, more rather than longer sessions are required, although both are suggested. Begin the practice periods as usual by repeating today's idea to yourself. Then, with eyes closed, search out your unloving thoughts in whatever form they appear. Uneasiness, depression, anger, fear, worry, attack, insecurity, and so on. Whatever form they take, they are unloving and therefore fearful. And so it is from them that you need to be saved. Specific situations, events, or personalities you associate with unloving thoughts of any kind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. It is imperative for your salvation that you see them differently. It is your blessing on them that will save you and give you vision. Slowly, without conscious selection and without undue emphasis on any one in particular, search your mind for every thought that stands between you and your salvation. Apply the idea for today to each of them in this way. My unloving thoughts about blank are keeping me in hell. My holiness is my salvation. You may find these practice periods easier if you intersperse them with several short practice periods during which you merely repeat today's idea to yourself slowly a few times. You may also find it helpful to include a few short intervals in which you just relax and do not seem to be thinking of anything. Sustained concentration is very difficult at first. It will become much easier as your mind becomes more disciplined and less distractible. Meanwhile, you should feel free to introduce variety into the exercise periods in whatever form appeals to you. Do not, however, change the idea itself as you vary the method of applying it. However you elect to use it, the idea should be stated so that its meaning is the fact that your holiness is your salvation. End each practice period by repeating the idea in its original form once more and adding, if guilt is hell, what is its opposite? In the shorter applications, which should be made some 3 or 4 times an hour and more if possible, you may ask yourself this question. Repeat today's idea and preferably both. If temptations arise, a particular helpful form of the idea is, my holiness is my salvation from this. Wow. This is one, it's a very, very long lesson, but also, man, it goes against so much of kind of like my own natural inclination and frankly, a lot of how I've been raised to think. So with that, just want to do a quick check-in with the chat. Soul 031 or 03I, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. Bob 8046, thank you. Thank you for joining. Tractatus, he says, bro, go to sleep. Rigo Smith, thank you. Thank you for joining. Rosh, thank you for coming on here. Y'all, I'm really, really excited to dive into this morning because, again, it really is counter to so much of how I was raised to think. Christopher Adams, if the world reads Christians, not the Bible, then let your walk with God represent an appealing testimony to all those seeking truth. Wow. What a beautiful way to say that, Christopher. Y'all, isn't that such an interesting thought exercise, Christopher, what you just put in here? Are our lives reflective of one that knows God, embodies the presence of God? Like we are, this is what's so interesting. So somebody, I need to go back and revisit the chat. It was a couple nights ago, but someone was really challenging the thought of God is in us. And we're going to talk actually more about this tonight on the Knowing Show. Sundays are really reserved for our cultivation of spiritual intelligence. So for those who are new to just the Knowing Show in general, we talk about the core intelligences each one of us has. We have intellectual intelligence in our minds. We have emotional intelligence, our soul. We have spiritual intelligence, our spirit, and we have physical intelligence, like our physical selves. Our body, literally, the innermost parts and even our physical body keeps a score. It has data associated with what's happened in the past. And so a lot of our job is to understand what's really true. What is my experience? And then how do I allow for freedom mentally, freedom emotionally, freedom physically, so that I can really live into my own potential. But in order for us to do that, sometimes we actually have to go back to the genesis, go back to the root moment and the originating experience, heal that so that that moment in the past doesn't hold power over me in the present. And if we don't heal it, we end up projecting the past onto the future. So we look at the future with a place of fear. And there's something around this that's so important because we're able to proceed with freedom and with hope when we've healed from the past. But otherwise, we're just going to keep projecting all this fear when we think about the future. And we can't actually move forward with a hope and a faith that something's going to be different. It's just a fear. I'm going to keep repeating the past pain that I know. So if we want to introduce something new, we have to do the deprogramming first to implement a new program. And so some of this, for today is really looking at these old programs, specifically in relation to what are our views around God? How are we taught to experience God? How did we experience God? And frankly, y'all, I think it's important for each one of us to, since Sundays are dedicated to emotional or spiritual intelligence, and even this morning's show, it's really dedicated to the cultivation of our spirit, because spirit so much is that what allows for intuition to have a voice, and not just our own intuition, but also hearing what God has to say, understanding the voice of God versus the voice of fear, because they sound different. Like the voice of love is very different than the voice of fear. And so that's partially why we spend time cultivating spiritual intelligence, is so that we can hear the guidance of the Lord in our lives. And also, we then have power to say, to look at fear and say, nope, I'm actually not going to let you run the ship. I'm going to take over, and I'm going to stand at the helm, because I know who I am, and I know whose I am, and I know where I'm going. And maybe we don't know exactly the finite direction, but y'all, I really, really love this concept of doing this work, because man, freedom's on the other side of it. Emotional freedom, spiritual freedom. And apart from looking at the past, a lot of times there's past programming that's really blocking us from relationship and connection with God, and relationship and connection with other people, much less so connection with ourselves. All right, I'm just jumping in here in the chat. I forgot today is Sunday. Where am I? What am I doing? Jeremy, thank you for I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad. I feel like this is perfect. Ambrose T. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. I'm doing well. I'm glad you're here. Cold 56, 97. C. Martin Love. Lord, be with me today and protect me from all harm. Strengthen me to follow your call to love and to serve. I love that. That's so beautiful. I'll pray that for myself too, and for all of us. So I'm so sorry you're sick today, Ambrose Tees. I'm so sorry. I wasn't feeling well yesterday morning either. Stephen, good morning. Brian, good morning. We talked about last night. I didn't see you on the show, and I might have just missed you, but I normally see you. But we talked about your question. Sammy, please know I can't last long due to me being transferred, but please know I'm grateful for you, as I'm really struggling with my nowadays, knowing my life is so broken with hearing everything now. Sammy, I'm so glad you're here. And I've been thinking about you a lot, Sammy. For those of you who don't know Sammy, we all met Sammy, and we've all been kind of getting to know each other over these last couple of weeks. But Sammy jumped on a couple weeks ago and shared about an accident that he had a couple years ago, and how that's really, really impacted his life today. And so he'll tune into these morning shows with his nurses. And Sammy, we're so glad you're here. And I've been praying for you, and I'm praying for strength, inner strength. This conversation around cultivating our minds and really strengthening, so that it's like we've got protection. I've thought about this a couple years ago, and I haven't talked about it too much on the show, but I think of our minds like a battlefield. Like we're going to war with every single thought that comes, and it doesn't need to be exhaustive or anything, that strenuous, but akin to, okay, every thought that comes in, we actually need to have a sentry over our minds, where it's like, oh, let me take that thought, pull it out, examine it, and be like, oh, yes, that stays, or oh, no, that goes. And when we start recognizing that every thought needs to be examined and weighed, and then we get to kick it out before it seeps in, because once a thought hits us and we allow it to stick around, it kind of passes down into our heart and into our soul, and then it effectively comes out of us. And there's this verse that says, you shall know a tree by its fruit. So everything that comes out of us, every word that we speak, reflects a thought that we have, and a part that's, frankly, we're allowing to cultivate inside of us. So much of I actually was talking, I did the Knowing Intensive yesterday, where I was sitting with a couple, a husband and wife, 59 and 65. And they're both like, we want to change, we want to grow, we want to know who we are. And so we're sitting having this conversation, and the woman is reflecting. She's sharing some really, really honest things. And she says that she feels like her home, she said it feels like a prison. And she says that, I feel like, you're in one room, we've got a neighbor down the hall, I can't go outside because they live in a condo. And she said it feels like a prison. And then this is my job, which is difficult, but I told her, I was like, I think what this is a really good opportunity for you to do is to take your external surroundings and use it as a mirror. What's going on inside of you? And she had mentioned earlier that she felt like she wasn't strong mentally. She wasn't peaceful. And so the external chaos around her actually mirrored the internal chaos. And y'all, so much of what we don't like in our external world is really a mirror and a reflection of us on what's going on internally. And so, I mean, I've experienced this just this past week. I was feeling actually kind of that same chaos. And it was because I hadn't actually taken the time that morning and early, like that whole week. Last week, I didn't do a great job getting vertically aligned. And then my external world just felt kind of like I didn't feel like I had secure footing, and I didn't really know how my days were going to go. And it's because I wasn't internally peaceful. So when our internal state isn't aligned, and when I say alignment, for those of you who have been hanging out with us on a daily basis, you know this, but for those who are new, when I say vertical alignment, I mean bringing our beliefs, behaviors, mindsets, attitudes, everything, all these disparate parts of us into alignment under our own ideal. Again, knowing who we are and whose we are and where we're called to go. And all of that, everything inside of me actually needs to become under the submission of that superordinate principle. And so if I'm experiencing in the external world that there's a lot of chaos, and then I need to actually, it's my responsibility to go inward and say, how is all of this a mirror for me? How is this a mirror for me to recognize, I'm actually not walking in peace. I'm not walking in love. I'm actually in fear. So then what ends up happening is that our external life, we actually may still have some chaotic circumstances, but man, when we're approaching it with a degree of peace, we feel in control of ourselves, even if the external world, I think, what was it, you, Brian, or Christopher? I don't remember. Somebody put in the quote or the song lyrics from Amazing Grace. When sea billows, what is it? When sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say it is well with my soul. So even when everything around me is going crazy. No, it's not Amazing Grace. It is well. That's the lyrics of the song. It is well. What a beautiful hymn. And really, that concept of everything around me is crazy, yet I will stand firm because I have a strong mind. I have a strong inner life, and I can withstand no matter what happens, whatever comes my way. See, Martin loves listening to your inner knowing or still small voice. Yes. Like I love that. That's so, so, so good. And that still small voice, when it's activated, it guides us in the path of truth. And it really is the conduit for peace because we're listening to what's more real than the external. Matthew, good morning. Thank you for joining. Christopher Adams, the boldest preachers and anointed saints were once the gravest of wretched sinners. The Latin etymology of religion is the verb religere, which roughly translates to reconciliation with God. Christopher. I love that. I love looking at the etymology. I love that. Etymology. I said that wrong. Etymology of religion is the verb religere, which roughly translate to reconciliation with God. So good. And isn't that so the opposite of what religion so much is today? It's actually like I'm separate from God. That's so much have been my experience in very traditional religious settings. It's like, oh, you're separate. Yep. You just kind of sit with that. And it's so, man, it's discouraging, and talk about what generates and perpetuates fear. It's this concept of separation where that is the antithesis of today's lesson. My holiness is my salvation. And we have that holiness because we are made in the image of God and God is in us and we have access to God because of Christ. And now we can be like him in every way. Oh, Christopher Gray, I'm so happy to see you. The voice of God outweighs the voice of fear every time. Oh my gosh, yes. And then y'all, this is a question that I need to continuously ask myself, and I would ask you this morning. Do you know the voice of God versus the voice of fear? Like, are you and I attuned spiritually to have that differentiation very clear? Last night on the Knowing Show, I was asked, do you have emotions or feelings that control you? And there's one narrative that really has power that I'm working actively to squelch effectively. And it's this narrative of I'm not wanted. And that's been with me since I was a little girl. And it just continues to kind of rear its ugly head. But I need to know the voice of I'm not wanted in order to then say, oh, but this is what the truth of God says. Because truth, the capital T truth, who God says I am, that's the superordinate principle. But we need to know the data that our body, our emotions, even our intelligence, our intellectual intelligence holds. It's there for a reason, but it does not mean it's the ultimate truth. So the more we know the capital T truth, who God says that I am, and who I choose to be, that's the thing. We can know intellectually, oh, well, this is who God says that I am. But are we allowing that truth to really permeate into our being so it becomes a belief? And y'all, in order for how to do that, one of the things that has made it probably has made the biggest difference. It was actually a challenge that my best friend at the time gave me a couple of years ago. He said, I want you to write down one thing you love about yourself every day. And the thought of doing that was just horrifying because for so much of my life, I had actually really ignored who I am. I had thought that it was prideful to think of myself. There was a whole bunch of narratives from this very religious traditional environment that allows for separation, right? Like, look at who you are, separate from God. So anyway, that's a whole other story. But I started writing one thing a day for 61 days, and it was so hard at the beginning. I wrote I think in the first 5 days I wrote, I like that I like pretty things. I like that I like bows. It's just like very vague, very kind of ambiguous. But as I started writing and kind of letting it come out, I realized like, oh no, I actually do like that I love people so much. I actually do like that and then he was like, no, change like to love. So then I had to write, I love that I love people so much. I love that I love beauty. I love that I'm an alchemist. And in that process, I started to see who God made me to be and like the core essence, because it's not just I like what I do, but I like who I am. And I love who I am. And I started to slowly see myself as who God made me to be and how God sees me. And that process changed me at a molecular level. And so y'all, I think each one of us is made with a purpose. Each one of us is made with such a specific, unique reason. But man, if we don't love who we are, it's going to be near impossible for us to then fulfill on the mission, because the mission of our lives is then going to be rooted in fear, lack of worthiness. It's effectively rooted in disempowerment versus powered by love, where love is the fuel, love is the gas. And it's love, not just, oh, I love me, but it's I love me so that I can be rooted in love. It's we love with the same type of love which we've received. So if we're not able to receive love and be transformed by love, we then cannot give love. So we have to first, again, look in the mirror. That's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing is, am I actually allowing for what's going on in the external world, my external relationships? What is that teaching me about me? What's going on in my external environment? What does that teach me about me? How do I need to take radical responsibility for my life? Lesson 31 says, I am not a victim of the world I see. And y'all, that has to be something that you and I believe at our core, because for so long as we believe that we're victims, we're then going to assign blame for anything we don't like, anything inconvenient, anything that makes us uncomfortable. We're just going to point the finger rather than looking at the four that point back at us. So in this conversation, it's so fun because it's not just, oh, look in the mirror, where are you wrong? But no, it's today's lesson. My holiness is my salvation. We get to cover everything with love, cover everything with the holiness that is already in us because Christ is in us. And so with that, we then love. With that, we then live this miracle life, where we're able to make a real impact. C. Martin Love, recognizing patterns and dimensions of reality beyond the material world and one's immediate ego. So good. Brian, oh, I'm so glad you watched it afterwards. I'd love to hear your feedback on last night. If you have any thoughts or additions, you always have such good thoughts. Christopher Adams, it is true. Look at St. Paul. He was once Saul of Tarsus, and what he did is drastically different to who he became. For those of you who don't know that story, it's this guy who was like acting in the name of God, which I think actually is a lot of religious tradition, acting in the name of God, living a certain way, doing all these things because he was acting out of religion. But then once he actually encountered Christ, it switched, and all of a sudden he was acting out of relationship. And relationship powered a completely different way of living, a completely different approach to other people, to himself. And you know what's interesting about this man? He actually changed his name from Saul to Paul. And what his experience was after experiencing God, he actually went and kind of was a recluse for a couple of years. He just had to unlearn all of the religion so that everything then was programmed from a place of relationship. And in that process of deprogramming religion and learning a new way of being, right? Because religion powers doing, relationship powers being. And the more we learn to just exist in the presence of God and have that presence transform us, again, receiving love, receive, the Latin root of receive, or the Greek word, I'm sorry, the Greek word of receive is lambano. And it's very active. I always thought of receive as like you just kind of sit there and hold out your hands and you get what's handed to you. But lambano is effectively the same type of concept of a soldier who receives orders. It's not just that they take it and they're like, thanks, got the orders. They go and take action as a result of it. So it's almost like this inflow of you receive it and then it flows into action. And that's what I'm talking about when I say receiving the love of God. It flows in and flows out. And that's the transformation of relationship versus religion, which is just, okay, what do I got to do? Because in religion, you don't transform. It's just a list of rules and that you go act on versus I receive the information in my head, heart, soul, being, and then it comes out in my action. I love that. I love that you brought up Saul to Paul. Ambrose Tees, thank you so much for joining. I don't know if you jumped off, but I hope you have a wonderful day. Just looking through the chat. Sammy, I'm in my chair watching you. Please, please know. I feel like I have nothing other than to please tell people to please be safe as I reach out and tell people about my catastrophic accident. Sammy, I would love to know, man, I would feel so honored to know as you're watching this. I'd love to know, how have you changed? What have you learned? Like if you were going to pass along one thing where you're like, y'all, you have to know, like if you have one message, what is it? Because you can't, I don't think anyone can go through the pain that you have and not be changed in some ways, like how can we alchemize? And alchemy is a scary thing, because what alchemy doesn't do, it doesn't take away the pain and it doesn't mean that the pain is worth it. My brother-in-law getting killed, there's no amount of lesson, there's no amount of alchemy from that can ever make it better that he died. No, that's always going to be tragic. And that's always going to make me so angry and so upset. And not even angry, but like there's always going to be just that pain there, that devastation, that missing him. And that's where this whole concept of letting go and stoicism that I don't agree with, where it's like, oh, feel nothing. I'm like, no, I actually want to feel things. I want to love people, and there's a cost of love. There's a cost of the pain that we go through. And still there's a transformation that can come from every single experience. So I'd love to know, Sammy, if you're willing, would you tell us what you've learned and how you've changed? I would feel so honored to know that if you're willing. And if you want to share that at another time, I would love to hear then. Christopher Adams, transformation from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh, being reconciled to God. I love how you said a heart of stone to a heart of flesh. That's moving from doing to being. Being is the heart of flesh. Doing is the heart of stone. Jeff Hoops, thank you. Just looking through here. The lens of leisure. He says, do you have to be upside down to be vertically aligned? That's funny. No. Quora, no, we're all just hanging out. Thanks for joining. Sammy, please know me and my nurses are also very grateful for your voice. I'm so glad you're here. Brian, I love the heart emoji. Cameron, new to your channel. What are you talking about? Just came on. this whole channel is really dedicated to cultivating ourselves in every way. So it's cultivating our emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, spiritual and physical intelligence. And honestly, the goal is legacy. Y'all, what are we building today that we're going to eventually leave behind? What do you want to achieve in your life? Who do you want to be? And that question, I don't think we can ask it enough. Yesterday, while I was doing the knowing intensive with this couple, again, 65 years old, 59 years old, I'm amazed that they're willing to have these conversations. We looked at our 3-year vision, and I did it with them. I like engaging in the process because it helps me time out, how long each exercise is going to take. And frankly, I cannot vision enough, and look at the past enough, and be present. And as I was doing that, I just realized, I was like, man, my vision for 3 years keeps growing and keeps getting bigger because the degree of our dreams, the height of our dreams, the strength and grandeur of our dreams pull us higher to who we need to be to fulfill those. So if we're dreaming small, we're inevitably going to be small versus I have to level up to match this dream. So dreams, big dreams. um, Sammy. Oh, being told my neck was so badly broken and being told I'll never walk again makes everything in my life so broken. As I was so active, I was so alive, but hearing my diagnose every day from my team, I'm just scrolling down. It just breaks my heart and soul. Oh, gosh. I'm just scrolling down to see, because I know I asked you a question. Okay, I don't see a response yet, but I cannot imagine. Sammy, God bless you, truly. And y'all, I just want to emphasize, and Sammy, there's something about empathy where you feel so deeply for that person. You're putting yourself in their position. And then compassion is you take action on that empathy. And so I would love, as I'm saying, like, what have you learned? That allows for us who are really feeling the empathy for you in your story. How then can we take action? How can we change? How can we come alongside you, like coming alongside and loving you, and also coming alongside our own lives and changing as a result of you? That is what makes your pain have purpose, is when we can glean so much meaning from you. Sammy, your life has so much purpose. And this is just, I really believe this is the beginning. This is the beginning of a new story, of a new life where people are going to be looking to you in such a way, if you let it. I'm here looking to you and being like, tell me what you've learned, and I really want to know. Okay, let me try this. Pabayata. I need to sound it out. C. Martin Love, practices that increase presence allow the soul to govern the ego, enhancing clarity and compass and compassion. Oh, compassion. Yes, I love that. Presence allows the soul to govern the ego. What a word. That is so beautifully stated. Oh, thank you so much, Cameron. God bless you and love your channel. I have to get up and tend to myself. I need to do the laundry. I'll come back. Good. I love that. Please come back. Let's see. Danny Birch. Have a great day. Thank you. Keep staying positive. I love this. Mavis Chuck, I'm not sure what you mean by that. How do you like people? What do you mean by that? Tell me more of what you mean. Senji's, hello. Thank you for joining. The Christopher Adams says the Stoic philosopher Seneca taught memento mori, which means remember your death. What he meant by that is steward the little time we have on earth in a more meaningful and joyous way. Oh, I love the joyous way, and a meaningful and joyous way. Here's what's I love the integration of those two words, because I have found both in myself where it's like I want to live so meaningfully, where it almost adds this cloud, and it's like, no, my gosh, there's so much joy in the meaning. Love actually yields joy. And this is, since we're talking about spiritual intelligence, I actually this morning, oh yay, I forgot about this until now. This morning, my siblings, well, not all of them, my mom, dad, my sister, and I have this little WhatsApp thread where we send prayers to each other. And then my darling and I will send each other prayer messages as well. And I was just praying, and I felt like, again, that inner voice, I felt like God kind of whispered to me that I need to pray prayers of praise, and instead of praying the negative, pray the positive. Pray with gratitude and speak out with hope. Prayers of hope are are really able to be transformational because I'm rewiring my brain to view the situation with eyes of hope, eyes of gratitude, already thanking God for what good is going to happen rather than, God, please don't let this happen. I'm kind of speaking out into the ether all the negative things, what I don't want to have happen. So, how much more powerful is it if I speak out and declare and thank Him, with gratitude, all the things that I do want to see happen? God, thank you that my pain has purpose. God, thank you that I am going to get clear on how purpose is going to be derived from this moment. God, thank you that I am changing as a result of this. God, thank you that I'm going to be healed. God, thank you that, really having thankfulness and gratitude power our prayer. And so to that point of meaning and joyous, there's praying for the desired outcome, but in a heart posture of joy and in a heart posture of gratitude. Mavis Chuck, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Sugar 87 Productions. Good evening to you. It is morning for me, but good evening to you. Amber Bundy, thank you. Thank you for joining. I love that. John Morris, thank you for coming on here. All right. Just kind of, Sender V, hello. I'm so glad. Oh, I don't know what that is. I think that I think I know what it is, but I'm not sure entirely. Amber, what's interesting? You say alchemy can't save you at all. Yet I have found that that's actually in the alchemy is what allows for us to have a heart posture of gratitude, to see and wonder what good is. It's kind of like, oh, I wonder how this is for me. I wonder what God's doing. And that narrative, both of those, this is for me, and I wonder what God's doing in this. Immediately, yes, alchemy doesn't save us, but man, is it a practice. Man, is it a practice that brings us into a place of hope and predisposes our heart and mind to be curious rather than assign judgment to a situation. So I appreciate you saying that. And there's that element, there's that element of like, oh, God, what are you going to do here? And having that heart posture of hope. Yes, a heart of stone from a heart of, or a heart of flesh from a heart of stone is totally, you said it's entirely biblical. Yes. We were actually talking about that earlier before you came on. Just scrolling down. God is described as knowing human frailty intimately, remembering that we are dust. Psalm 103, verse 14. He is portrayed as recording every tear and every sorrow. I love both of those verses. There's one verse in particular where I think he's kept all of our tears in a bottle. And man, if that doesn't bring a sense of like comfort, I don't know what does. Oh my gosh. I don't believe the Oh, thank you, Christopher. Honestly, I'm so glad you're saying this because I haven't done enough deep dive into the Stoics to know it from their perspective. So I'm so glad you challenged me on this because I've heard other people talk about Stoicism, which is kind of like void of emotion. So I'm glad that you're correcting me here. Christopher says, I don't believe the Stoics taught a dismissal of emotion. And I don't know how to say this guy's freaking name. I was struggling earlier when I tried to say his name last week, so I'm not even going to try to say it. But a particular Stoic taught about a dichotomy of control. We solely have autonomy over our responses rather than the external influences around you. Yes, and that's so much of what Viktor Frankl was saying too in Man's Search for Meaning, which is effectively, you can take everything from me. You can take my very life, but you cannot take away my ability to choose, my choice of how I respond. So I love that. So if that's what the Stoics talk about, then absolutely. I love that. And thank you for correcting me. Just looking through here. Sauce Dupe Will. I have 4 sisters and both of my brothers are married. So I've got 3 sisters, and then both my brothers are married, so I've got 5 sisters. Oh my, I am going to hide this one. That's not that's not good to see. Oh, James, good morning. I'm glad you're here. Oh my. All right. Did you guys know you can put a user on timeout, which is so cool. Um, all right, y'all. I thank you all so much um, for coming on this morning. This conversation is so important. My holiness is my salvation. Um, really being able to come alive internally. You know, awaken our souls, awaken our spirits, awaken the parts of us that frankly are what God created to begin with. There's so internal family systems IFS is actually a therapeutic process, but it was based on, I think it was 2000 different therapeutic sessions. And so this man created this process based on all of these data points, where from so much research into each individual conversation, many people would kind of talk about these parts. And there's the wounded part, the part that just is really, really hurt. And then there's the protector part, the part that's more so controlling. Then there's the firefighter part, which is actually like to put out the fire by way of trying to distract from the pain. They'll try to use humor or wit or be on their phones. So there's like two ways of protecting against accessing the wounded part, because our nervous system doesn't want us to be hurt and upset. So it will put in these parts of us, the controlling part, the organizational part, the managerial part, to keep our lives so ordered and structured, and then also the distractor part to avoid the pain. And both of those parts are intended to keep us from ever feeling sorrow and feeling the pain. But then there's our true self, who God created. And over time, as our wounded part gets hurt and triggered, the protectors layer on layer, 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 layer. And then we get further and further away from our true self. And so my holiness, Christ in us, that relationship with God, that's the true self in so many ways. It's like when God created Adam and Eve, he said, this is good. And so whether it was figurative or the allegory, or really, there really was a man and woman named Adam and Eve. And even just saying that, like, I hope that we can all be curious, curious about asking those questions, and how much of it, literally, does the literalness of it even matter so much, to the point, can we still derive truth from it? So that's going to be a question that's probably going to bring some, heat back, I would assume. But can we still actually derive meaning from the truth and the allegory of what it offers? And so when God created Adam and Eve, he said, this is good, you're good, I'm in you. And so effectively, it's recovering the parts of us before all the layers of us missing the mark, which is the definition of sin, and all of these layers and layers and layers of what we've come to experience in the world that has allowed for us to move off the course and move out of alignment. But allowing for that true self, where our holiness from God and with God, existing in relationship and in harmony with him, allowing that to come to the forefront, and having our holiness, our true self, at the helm of the ship, where when our fear comes up, we can say, hey, I got it, I hear what you're saying, you're safe. Our protector parts and our wounded parts, tending to those parts, but not letting those take the driver's seat. So y'all, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be live again tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. With that, I hope you have a wonderful day.